the 1 seed.
Yep, to get back to that NFC Championship game.
With Seattle moving up to grab the 2 seed. Last week's top seed, San Francisco drops down to a wild card with Minnesota, the Packers, holding the 3 seed, while the 6 and 7 Cowboys lead the East for now. And for more on that, let's send it over to Jim Rome.
All right, JB, Jason Garrett will not say the Cowboys quit on him, but I will. They did. Just like the rest of us should quit the NFC East. The fact that somebody could and probably will win this division with a sub-500 record is incredible. Even more incredible is that Washington started 1-9. They already fired their coach, and they're the hottest team in that division. And at 3-9, they could still win it and even host a playoff game. The Giants have lost 8 straight, and they could still end up tied for the best record in the division. What I'm saying is the NFC East is garbage. Roger Goodell should use the powers of the commissioner's office and flex in realignment. Just move San Francisco into the East and give them the title. You're welcome. Now, I get that the Seahawks, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, and the 12s are not for everybody, but y'all need to get this. They're good, maybe even Super Bowl good. You say they play down to their level of competition, they don't dominate anybody, and they play too many close games. I say they're 9-1 in one-score games. They're playing their best when it matters most, and they are still getting better. And old man Pete will pound you on the ground, get after you with his defense, and then demoralize you with a killer gadget play. And if all else fails, turn it over to the wizard, Russell Wilson, and let him make the impossible look routine. This is not a team you want to run into right now, not in their house, and especially not in front of the 12s. And if they do rip that 1 seed, look out. And it's near impossible at this point to separate the Niners and the Saints and the Seahawks. We're all 10-2, but that's what they put me on Air Rome for. So let me take a shot. The Niners are coming off a tough physical loss in Baltimore, and now they've got to deal with the Saints indoors. But that's why I like them. They're battle-tested. We know that Niner defense travels and will disrupt Drew Brees no matter how quickly he gets it out. Offensively, I know this label gets thrown around all the time, but Kyle Shanahan literally is a genius, and I'm looking for the Niners to dictate terms with the run game, take some pressure off Jimmy G, and keep it out of the hands of the Saints' skill guys. Going from battling in Baltimore to the Dome in New Orleans is a huge ask, but I am rolling with them, and I am calling that upset, JB.
That is what Jim Rome is synonymous with, and the word is bold.
Hey, he is bold, and I actually do agree with him, and I agree with him for this reason, because defense does travel. And to make my point, take a look at the 4 first-round picks that the San Francisco 49ers have on their defensive line. They get Dee Ford back today. These guys have combined for 31 sacks already. They have 24 takeaways for the season. Last year, this defense only forced 7 takeaways. It's one of the reasons why they are so good. And I saw a lot of good last week on the road in Baltimore, and I suspect that we'll see the same thing today in New Orleans.
Yeah, you know who benefits from that great defensive line they have is the linebackers for the San Francisco 49ers, who nobody ever talks about. Fred Warner, one of the best tacklers in the NFL. He leads the 49ers on the defensive side. They have Greenlaw, Alshire. The good thing about them is they're great tacklers. They're all first and second-year players. But when I look at this game today, you know what I think of? The San Francisco 49ers couldn't throw it because of the rain last week much. Play action, bootlegs, things like that against man-to-man of New Orleans. I think they'll have great success.
I agree with you on that, Phil, because the one thing they also have is a tremendous running game. You're talking about a 3-headed monster and talking about Breida. You're talking about Mostert and Tevin Coleman. You know, one thing about going down there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's a fast turf, and it plays to their strength. You also got talking about maybe the best tight end in football, a guy who can block and catch, George Kittle. But how about Kenyon Bourne? This guy has now stepped up along with Emmanuel Sanders in that play-action game, giving them the explosive plays. So they have explosion on the offense that goes along with that very, very productive defense.
Yeah, regardless of what you may think about the Saints' secondary, they are the #3 rush defense in the league, and it's anchored by Cam Jordan, who's been playing phenomenal. My man has he had 4 sacks last week. He has 13.5 on the season. That's second in the NFL. And more importantly, a number that people don't talk about, he is top 5 in QB hits. That means he's making quarterbacks uncomfortable. So he's going to have to do that. That defense is going to have to step up to see if they can stop that run game.
Loving the Saints staying focused to get back at it. All right, folks, we'll keep the conversation going here. A pair of NFC West heavyweights, the Seahawks and Rams, will go at it in a huge matchup tonight.
Well, when you talk about the Seahawks, you think about Russell Wilson, all the other stuff, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's done a great job managing his football team. They've got back to what? Running the football. They got a solid offensive line. Pete Carroll's as patient as any coach in the NFL about running. They run it behind or when they're ahead. Either way, they have 2 big power running backs who I love, Chris Carson, Rashad Penny. You don't have to worry about them running hard. You know why? Because if you don't run hard, he'll put the other guy in. So it keeps them motivated. And I'll tell you, what else? The other thing it does for this football team, running the football protects their pass defense, which I think is their weakness.
It is a weakness, Phil. When you think about that first game, the LA Rams lost that game only because Zerline missed a 44-yard field goal late in that game. But you're talking about offense that last week, Jared Goff coming off his best performance, over 400 yards throwing, 2 touchdowns. He got now healthy in the second with the receivers. Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Brandon Cooks is back along with Tyler Higbee, Todd Gurley, and Malcolm Brown. This is the healthiest they've been. Their playoffs start today.
Yeah.
They cannot afford to lose, so it's a playoff atmosphere for the LA Rams.
Russell Wilson is doing what Russell Wilson always does, playing big in big moments. And, Phil, you mentioned that run game. If you pay attention to this pass game, the wide receivers for the Seattle Seahawks, they're facing single coverage, and they're facing spaces zones. So what they do is when you lean on that play action, these guys are running in lanes where Russell Wilson can drop off Dante Tyler Lockett, who's a speedster. He's getting healthy. And keep your eyes on DK Metcalf. He has gotten better and better week in and week out.
I like what Sean McVay did for Jared Goff last week against the Arizona Cardinals. This is a different game. This game will be tight. It'll be close. And like Jim said, old man Pete, I played for young man Pete back in 1994 with the Jets. Young man Pete likes what old man Pete's doing, and that is running the football. That's why their games are always so close. And they are battle-tested. So I will definitely take the battle-tested Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll over Jared Goff and Sean McVay.
As much as things change, they stay the same. You love the
running game around this time of year.
Hey, folks, we'll keep the conversation going right here, but we'll kick off.
Talk about young quarterbacks. These are the AFC quarterbacks that right now are in the playoffs if they started today. Of course, you have Tom Brady at 42, but take a look at how good we are here and the future is for the NFL at the quarterback.
Future looks great. Hey, what did that photo of the two of you say?
It just said from one MVP to another.
Oh, okay. Well, let me get ready to send it on to another MVP. For more on the Patriots angle in this matchup, let's send it over to the MVP, Phil Simms.
Yes, thank you, JB. You know, Nate, all I can say is thank God we had a triple XL sweatshirt in the back for Boomer Simpson. So you can take it from there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But the Patriots, guys, that Patriot offense, there's been the good, there's been the bad, and then there's been the ugly. And as far as this on the sideline, in the Oscar for best sideline performance goes to Tom Brady. All jokes aside, I'm not a comedian. Well, what's going on with the offense, Coach?
Well, there is frustration there, no doubt about it, Nate. And I think when you look at it, it starts right here in the running game. They have not had one runner, Sony Michel, their lead runner, not one runner over 100 yards. And when they are running it, they're only getting 3.5, which is 29th in the National Football League. When you run the ball, we've always seen these guys in the past. What's a big part of it? Play action, tight ends. Tight end receptions, 26. Fewest in the National Football League. Let's go back to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Staple play for the New England Patriots is what? Match up with Gronk, get him out there, get the matchup you want, and Tom Brady throwing a seam pass on the numbers. He's made a living with this. He throws it up. That's not there anymore. It's not there anymore because you know what? You don't have the running game. You don't have James Devlin. And right now you don't have Rob Gronkowski, and you don't have any movement. They're not able to get anything going. And then when they do get going, who's the two receivers you have? Edelman, James White. Everybody else can't get open. So you take away those two players right there, and what you see is throws are going over the head. Again, people are able to play these guys in man-to-man coverage. They cannot get open. It's creating frustrations. You can see right here the indecision with Tom Brady and ultimately just throwing the football away. So really, when you look at this football team, they are almost searching for an identity, and here we are in Week 14.
I think a big thing I ask you, it used to be so much about the running backs last year, the last couple of years. Why is that not working now?
Well, you know, I think everybody's doing it now, Phil. So there are people who are making the adjustments to James White and Edelman. And you only got those two guys. When you think they're receivers, N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Meyer, they're rookies. Also, Mohamed Sanu just got there 3 weeks ago, and Philip Dorsett has been in concussion protocol for like the last 3 weeks. So they really have not had any kind of timing.
Okay, we got a great defense. We're 10-2, but our offense is struggling. Why don't you embrace that as an offense and play to the strength of your team?
The strength of that team is it's a defensive football team, and I think it starts right now, as we talked about, getting back to the running game, which that may be something they look to do today against the Kansas City Chiefs.
No matter how critical we can be, they are 10-2.
They are.
They have the greatest of all time.
And you think they're 2-10 up there, but Bill Belichick loves that atmosphere in that building right now. He loves to have this kind of sense of urgency that this team is going to be playing with.
And speaking of the greatest of all time, over to JB.
Oh, man. Hey, moments ago, fellas, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee released its at home representing the charities that they support.
Well, guys, you know, if I were playing, I'd be wearing Team Boomer cleats, not after Team Boomer me, but after my foundation fighting cystic fibrosis. 1993, my son Gunnar was diagnosed with that disease, and since that time, $150 million raised, and Gunnar's in Dartmouth Tuck School of Business today.
Awesome stuff. Well, I have some Santa-inspired cleats because the Boys and Girls Club is something that means near and dear to my